Now to today's focus, and today we report, in fact, on the abattoirs of Spain. Spain, in fact, the second largest pork producer in Europe, but due to stiff competition from around the world, cost-cutting has become essential. That means that conditions for workers has deteriorated, and today most jobs are done by migrant workers, who are the only ones willing to accept the low wages and the relentless pace. As Valérie Lebon and Sarah Morris report, though, some workers saying they are no longer willing to accept conditions that come close to slavery.
Abattoir equals slavery against racism. For the first time in Catalonia, a production line at a pork abattoir has ground to a halt. Workers are on strike.
We've had enough. We can no longer tolerate racism. We can no longer accept what's going on at the abattoirs, and we need to stand up together to do something about what's going on.
Almost half of Spain's abattoirs are in Catalonia. More than 20 million pigs were slaughtered here last year. But behind this economic success are labour conditions from another century. Montserrat and her colleagues say immigrant workers are being exploited by the region's companies.
Despite their fear, some of the workers have told us that they don't get a wage for the first month because they have to pay for their post. And in the second month, they earn a pitiful amount because they have to pay for their tools. Then they fire them unceremoniously because there are other people queuing up outside.
That was what happened to Maria, a Nigerian who worked 10 hours a day for 2 months at the abattoir. She doesn't speak Spanish and cried when she received her payslip. She sought help from a lawyer.
She was paid 488 euros, which is lower than the minimum salary in Spain. This payslip is clearly false.
80% of those who work in the abattoirs are immigrants. Some of them have visas, but not all. They're paid different salaries for the same job.
Some say they pay that 800 euro, some 500 euro, because there are people that used to work there without, they don't have, it's not their documents. They use other person's documents to work. And she know at the end of the month, she will pay you little money.
Maria's lawyer says her case is far from unique. The abattoirs outsource recruitment to cooperatives who make the migrant workers declare themselves as self-employed.
They use the cooperative status, which is legal, but they abuse it to defraud both the social security system and the workers, leaving them without rights or legal protection.
None of the abattoirs we contacted allowed us to film workers in them. Sliman used a hidden camera to show us the conditions on the pig-cutting production line. Since he's self-employed, he has to provide his own protective gloves, knife and apron. It's hard, repetitive work, over 10 hours a day. On average, the workers cut up 900 pigs an hour, 1 every 4 seconds. Balde came here from Senegal 17 years ago. He quickly obtained a visa because Spain needed labour. He's one of the few people today to have a permanent contract at the abattoir Esfosa, where he says there's a climate of permanent fear.
It's really hard work. Where you should have 2 people doing a job, they put 1. And you can't answer back. If you answer back, you get sent home for 2 or 3 days without pay. There's no allowance when you're sick. They just say, get on with it.
Last year, the Catalan police dismantled a people trafficking network. Almost 300 Chinese people had paid up to 16,000 euros each to come and work in this abattoir, where they were exploited.
This company could not have been unaware of what was going on, since we know its strategy was to get rid of fixed contracts workers and to hire cheaper self-employed people. They delegated all the powers related to human resources to a Chinese worker who was the head of the criminal organization, and I mean all HR prerogatives.
The local newspaper investigated the subject. Delors found the system of fake cooperatives was widespread throughout the industry. a fraud to save on social security costs.
Since
there are more than 2,000 self-employed workers working in these conditions, this means employers are saving between 4 and 5 million euros in contributions. That's more than 2,000 euros per worker per year.
Experts say that's how the industry cuts the price per kilo of pork by a few cents. The desperation of immigrants is behind the success of Spanish pork in Europe. 2/3 of Catalonia's production is exported, mainly to France.